Last week, we asked if you agree with guidance encouraging colleges to do no longer consider race in its admissions process. 80% of you say, yes, you do. And as always, we thank you for sharing. As if the drought and bollworms weren't enough of a headache for farmers, the Trump administration is preparing additional tariffs on $200 million of products going to China. Reasons are legitimate, but farmers in our West Texas economy face problems because of it. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue wrote in USA Today that he has tools to support farmers faced with losses because of this, although he hasn't actually been clear on what those tools are. But it's something else that Secretary Perdue said on CNBC that rings true. He said farmers are worried that patriotism doesn't pay the bills. Strategy might. Here's KMAC's Emily Falkenberg.
The last few years really have been very difficult from a price perspective. I don't have to tell any producers that erosion of profitability over the last several years is a very, very real thing. And
for Texas ag producers, exports make up a significant percentage of their overall production. With corn and sorghum producers caught up in the 25% tariff, this puts an added strain on an already difficult year.
The last few years have seen its share of challenges, and then you pile on top of that trade issues and the ups and downs of these trade negotiations are really causing a lot of uncertainty on the South Plains and then all across the sorghum belt as well.
Strategic Business Director for the National Sorghum Producers, John Duff, says we already have a really unleveled playing field in a number of areas when it comes to trade, and they want to do their part, but also support local producers.
We understand and are sympathetic and absolutely want to do everything we can to help this unfair trade situation, but we continue to work with the administration and other stakeholders to ensure that farmers are held harmless in these negotiations.
So in a battle of Washington versus Beijing, South Plains farmers are caught in the crossfire.
They're not like large corporations that can lose $1 million on one swing in one day and then gain $3 the next day. It doesn't work like that with family farmers.
Cost for growing a bushel of corn is going to be on the upper end of the range that producers had projected when they did their budgeting. And then we're catching this fall in prices. It's potentially going to put a real economic squeeze on our growers.
While it's a big impact for local growers, Executive Director for Texas Corn Producers, David Gibson, says it also spills over into the community.
Most of our towns are dependent on what the ag producers bring in for our local economy. This whole impact to all of our crops is going to spill off into all of our local businesses, and especially in these rural areas that are dependent on farm and ranch income.
Emily Falkenberg, KMAC News.
Emily will be back with the final word.